Hey guys, this is Zlewikk and welcome back to series of our videos about dev diaries of EU5. Last week we discussed about a really interesting aspect of the game, so wars and war goals. So today is time for a long-awaited peace treaties dev diary. You can tell already it's gonna be interesting dev diary by amount of the respectfully disagrees we have under it. And I think this is the first dev diary with more negative than positive reactions. So first of all, general rules of your peace offers. So if you're a war side leader, you can peace out either the whole war, so the other war side leader, or any of the other side separate participants. If you are just a participant, you can only peace out with the war leader on the other side. So it's pretty much same as in EU4, we just don't know if there will be cases where you can't separate peace people in the war. Like for example in EU4 you can't do that in a coalition war. Second thing, and I think that's one of the reasons for so many negative reactions, is that when you have a specific war goal, you cannot take anything else if you don't take that war goal. So if a specific province, let's say Kraków is a war goal of your war and you don't take it, you can't take any other province. Which is different than in EU4, because in EU4 that province was just cheaper to take compared to the others. Plus it opens out of discussion if a no CB is truly the best war goal, because in no CB you can't take anything then, right? It's a weird new idea, and yeah, I'm not sure if I like it. Same as the people voting there. Another thing, if you want to take a specific province, or land in that province, you need to control the province capital. And that, I think, is a good change. And that's something that is gonna make expansion a bit more hard. And it's very similar to something that a lot of MP lobbies are enforcing, is that when you're forcing peace on someone, you can't take land you don't occupy. And so I'm rather a fan and then an enemy of this idea, but I see a lot of people already crying that it's gonna make expansion impossible with how hard the wars are with attrition. A peace offer, same as in EU4, will be stacking up different treaties within that peace, up to 100 of peace cost. So yeah, nothing new here. Of course, the other side would have to agree, and they are very likely not to accept anything where the peace cost is higher than the current war score. Again, similar to EU4. Here's an example peace offer screen, and we can already see a bit in the background. You see there how the terrain map mode would look like in game. This part I think is rather good and interesting in the dev diaries of peace treaties themselves. A peace treaty can be the transfer of a location, province, or an area. So now the question is, if you want to take area, what do you have to occupy to take it? Do you need to occupy every capital of every province in that area? That's how it's read based on the previous information. It can also be to force another country to stop sending privateers on transferring gold to you, or dismantling fortification or location, humiliating them, or any other of the thousands of possible peace treaties of Project Ceasar. So this already seems to be deeper than EU4 in amount of the type of the peace treaties that you can hand in your game. At least it seems so, because obviously EU4 has also thousands over thousands of peace treaties. So this sounds good, especially compared to how many peace treaties EU4 had at the start when it was released, and how some other grand strategy games are limited in the peace treaties. The cost of each treaty depends on many factors, whether it's part of the war goal or not, the population, the type of the treaty, and so on. So for example, taking Gostinin to the Teutons, a peace treaty is costing 2%, where 1 is the base cost. Then it's increased by 209% because it's a big part of Płock, so I assume that is the population impact. It is not a war goal, so it's plus 33% compared to war goal cost. So we might say war goal is having minus 33% cost. It is the same culture, so it's minus 10%. It is the same religion, it's another 10%. Your power projection impacts this being belligerent. Now that's interesting. If you lack control, it's gonna be cheaper for enemies to take the province, same as like in EU4. So to work very similarly here, it's a bit surprising that control is increasing the cost. Shouldn't it be the plus and minus from just one modifier instead of giving two separate modifiers for this. Alright, how about the aggressive expansion? It again seems to work very similarly to EU4, where obviously taking land gives you aggressive expansion. This AE will impact the opinions of the other countries in the source of the aggressive expansion a fair bit. So again, I'm just guessing, the closer distance to the province you took, the more AE you're gonna get. And then once you get enough AE, countries with a low enough opinion, similarly to EU4, will be able to join a coalition against you. What is new is how that coalition is gonna work, because coalitions in EU5 are gonna be international organizations. So maybe we'll have a bit more of functionalities and features around coalitions versus in EU4. So here's an example of a peace deal where Lithuania will become your vassal, which will be 74 of AE. Remember, Lithuania is smaller in EU5 than in EU4. Each of the locations giving you a bit of AE, and 93 other locations give you 66. Then since it's not a rival, it's additional 10%. Remember, in EU4, what impacted the AE of a specific province you were taking, besides the distance which we discussed, there's also religion, for example, Wargoal that you're using. But most importantly, what impacted this is the development of a province. So, you know, while population of a province was highly impacting the cost of taking the province, it seems to not have an impact on the AE, because every single location is 0.71 of AE, which I hope is an overlook, because if, you know, Vilnius would be taking as much AE as Mena, wouldn't it be a bit weird? But since it's a different type of a peace deal, because it's a Lithuania being a vassal, it could be that it is calculated properly, just differently, and then they're just splitting every location by the total amount of AE. And if you're taking Vilnius, Kernave, Asmena all separately, AE for each of these locations would be different. I hope that it works like this. Then we've got War Enthusiasm, so another mechanic that we knew from EU4, where it was, you know, low, medium, high calculation, and against how much willing a nation is to fight, which will be affected by a lot of stuff like war exhaustion, the military balance between the two nations, a casus belli being used, if the capital is occupied, length of the war, if you're making gains, and the strength of the military of the nation, which seems like one-to-one taken from EU4, and I have nothing against that, because this seemed like an alright system. Finally, you've got war participation, so it's again something we had in EU4 that is impacted by the battles. In EU4 was how much you lost in the battles, so let's see how it's gonna be here. Sieges and blockades. And they are saying that if you promise land in an offensive war to your allies, and then they have a specific war participation, let's say 30%, they will expect to not release less than their participation in the peace deal, otherwise they will get upset, which is again something similar to EU4. So this is all for this dev diary. You see that next week we will see more about conflicts that will not involve declarations of war, but since there's so much of respectfully disagree, we do have to read the comment section. And one of the big things mentioned in the comment section is that people are disappointed about nothing really new happening here compared to EU4, which is funny because on one side people are complaining a lot that some stuff is completely new compared to EU4 and they want the EU4 system, while here we have the other side of the conflict where people are saying, why would you bring everything from EU4? We want something new. You will never make everyone happy. But yeah, one of these comments here is, I think, something that was an expectations from EU fans for a long time, to have two-way peace deals, which is much more historical, right? Yes, you'll give me some lands, but I will give you something else in exchange. I know, money or maybe even different lands to exchange the borders. People also criticizing the fact that you need to take a Wargoal to take anything else, and again, there are a lot of historical examples where it didn't happen because both nations had to go for a compromise. Johan is also confirming that they are planning to reuse a very similar favor system compared to EU4, which is again an argument for people saying that's gonna be a bare-bone game without content. Remember, favor system was added in Leviathan, which is patch 1.31 for EU4. That was only 6 patches ago. and that was what, 2021, that it was 8 years after the game was released. This will be in a base game in EU5. Terrain map when it's ready. Sad to see there are no two-way peace deals, and Johan saying, yeah, it's not really something that's feasible to do, as the AI logic for it would be very, very complex. And all our previous negotiate systems like that have been exploitable even when blindfolded. So yeah, Johan saying they're not even taking a try to develop this, because they've seen so many examples in the past of how easy this kind of a peace deal system can be exploited. Even in Civilization games, there's stuff like that happening. Why Civ games peace deal system, why they are two ways, they're much simpler than in EU. Well, maybe they will still change their mind based on the feedback from this dev diary, but it doesn't seem so. Then it's answer to this guy saying that the peace cost of the same religion should be higher, not lower. And Johan saying he would argue that the peace cost could be lower, but AE higher for the same religion. What are the effects of AE on your own country, besides effect on the other countries? It moves some societal values over time. It reduces your diplomatic reputation, reduces your cultural influence, and makes your spies far worse. Which is an interesting system, because Deep Pro Rep was impacted by overextension, but we don't have overextension in EU5, so AE will impact that instead. But how general AE will be counted? Because AE should be different for each target nation, depending on the religion, distance, etc. How the main AE modifier will be counted to impact your diplomatic reputation, or will your diplomatic reputation be different for each target country? I'm once again reposting this image until you show us towns and cities map mode of the world so far. Blue is a town, green is a city. So we have no cities in Poland, for example, but that's a nice map mode to save. I'm gonna use it in a thumbnail. Do all locations amount to the same AE? Looks like they are all 0.79. And Johan saying AE functions are very bare bones at the moment. Okay, so it still is gonna be improved for sure. I think this is strange. I have no doubt that there are historical examples of wars that were declared for Wargoal. Yeah, that's the requirement to take the Wargoal. Yes, but it also removed a fair bit of griefing and exploits. Looks about as frustrating as EU4 system, frankly. Still a fixed 100 point cap, still the same AE effect, and this always was with no level of nuance. I'm disappointed. I'm saying it was the best system we have made for GSG. I actually agree. I don't have as much of playtime in the other grand strategy games, but I never felt as good with a peace deal system as I did in EU4. The fact that control is influencing your Wargoal course twice is a bug. It is, well, it was not expected to be visible there. He's saying that should be a formula, so something that I expected. There's a separate response from Johan on people reacting that why there are no bilateral pieces. For games with peace negotiations, about 20% plus of all AI development tend to go to understanding situation for war and negotiate peace. It's a super complicated thing to work on to make sure that 1. The AI is able to play the game and keep somewhat of a progress. 2. Not frustrate the player and make him quit, making it support treaties going multiple ways for a peace would not just double the complexity, but instead of n, it's nxn problem at least. Yeah, I do see that point, because the idea of the bilateral system of peace deals sounds great, but it is so complex to develop in a game like EU. It is not a civilization game. And again, another response, it's one of those, this sounds like a damn good idea, which ends up with a lot of development time required and ends up with a worse experience for the user, as the balance is almost impossible. Johan, you convinced me with these few responses. Minimum AE for coalitions to trigger is 50, so same as in EU4. How will the battles be seen on screen? Like 2 soldiers fighting each other like in EU4? Johan saying something more. Right guys, I think that's gonna be it for today. That's already a long video. Let me know what you think about this system and what you would improve. Your feedback is very valuable. And obviously subscribe to the channel to get notified about the next week's TikTok Talks. Bye!